the last graduating class of 2012, I guess it would have been, they gave each of us gifts, each of the leaders gifts, and they gave me a welder. Actually, they gave me a certificate to go buy a really nice welder. And I didn't do that till this weekend, just because of time, and not because I didn't have time to go buy it, but because I didn't have time to learn how to use it. So I've been watching videos for the last few days. I went and bought a welder, and I've been watching videos on welding. And the guy says, the instructor in the video says that welding is all about how to control heat so that two objects melt together and become one. And I'm watching that and I'm like, you know what? This is the Lord. This is the reason why I didn't get this machine till now. Because this is the word of the Lord. You know, you use that rod that you weld with. That's like love. But how many of you understand that love is like the passion, and you have to control the heat so that the goal is that there wouldn't be two anymore, that they would melt into one. Adam said it, he prophesied it in Genesis chapter 2, that when Adam woke and saw Eve, he said, "You're bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. For this reason a husband shall leave his father and shall cleave to his wife, and the two of them shall become one." And Paul picked up that theme in Ephesians chapter 5, and he said, he quoted Adam in that verse, and he went on to say, but this is the mystery that is not just about marriage in the natural, but it's about marriage with God. That literally, that the two of us become one. That we become a unity. That we melt together so that there's no longer two. But now, the goal is that this metal and this metal now become inseparable. So that if there is a break, it's never in the place where you weld. Because that becomes the strength of your relationship. And I've been sharing this for a while out of the book of Ruth. And I won't take the time to tell you the whole story of the book of Ruth, because I've done it twice in the two previous teachings. But Naomi is Ruth's mother-in-law, and Naomi's husband dies, and her two sons. And one of her sons was married to Ruth, so Ruth was her daughter-in-law. And Naomi says to Ruth, and to her two daughter-in-laws actually, go back to your people who are the Moabites. Go back to your people and to your land. And one of her daughter-in-laws goes back to the Moabites, and Ruth says this to her in verse 15 of chapter 1. And this is what's been resonating in me for just literally weeks. I wake up in the night with it. And she says this. So Naomi says, I want you to go with your sister-in-law who's gone back to her people and to her gods and return after your sister-in-law. But listen to this. But Ruth said, do not urge me to leave you or go back from following you. For where you go, I'll go. Someone should write a song about that. Where you go, I'll go. And where you lodge, I will lodge. And your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. And listen to this. And where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. For thus may the Lord do to me, and worse, if anything but death separates you and me. Whew. Have you ever had your heart take you places your head just can't go? I've probably read that verse, I don't know, probably 50 times in the last month, and I just can't get past it without being overwhelmed with emotion. And I understand what it says there. I can see what it says rationally. I understand it. But my heart knows something that my head still can't get, wrap its brain around. And that is that we're called to a place of covenant. We're called beyond convenience. And how many of you understand that covenant is about passion and it's about sacrifice? I wouldn't want to be married to someone I never had any passion for. But passion without sacrifice will not make two one. Let me just say that again. You cannot separate sacrifice from passion and have a marriage. Sacrifice and covenant means I've come to die for you. I've come to lay down my life for you. I've come to give you myself so that you can benefit. I've come for your sake. How many of you know that cohabiting and marriage is not the same thing? In cohabiting, in my example of welding, two pieces, they stay two pieces. And sometimes we bond together for some reason. In welding, they call it a weld with no penetration. Like it didn't get hot enough for the two to become one. And when pressure is put on a weld like that, it just breaks right in the place where the bonding happened, because the bonding never became one. Two people stayed two people. The goal of the covenant is that two would become one. How many of you know that covenant creates camaraderie? But there's also camaraderie that isn't based in covenant. Now, I'll just read you what I wrote. Covenant expresses itself in camaraderie, but not all camaraderie is rooted in covenant. Often, camaraderie is rooted in a common enemy instead of covenant friendships. But fellowship rooted in warfare is fueled in hatred, not forged in love. Gangs bond through the common struggle against the system and find camaraderie in battle. People bully each other, and it's a form of camaraderie. Have you ever noticed that when a person that's been bullied leaves school, the perpetrators find themselves another person to bully? This is because camaraderie without covenant always needs an enemy. Yet true covenant is not rooted in a common struggle, but in mutual love, because covenant needs no enemy, for it lays down its life for its friend. When a culture of covenant is absent in community, society adopts an us and them mentality because people's bonds are rooted in a common foe. In other words, there's a need to have an enemy, for their friendship is based on who they're against. Covenant destroys the us and them mindset and bonds people through God's love, not mutual agreement. What I'm getting at is this. In gangs, we bond because of who we're against. The political spirit is about we are together because we agree we don't like them. Camaraderie can be rooted in covenant, but not all camaraderie means that you're in covenant. And I'm concerned that the church has exchanged covenant for camaraderie. That we are being identified by what we're against instead of who we love. And that we're responding to the world out of what we're against instead of who we love. And I'd like to propose to you that God so loved the world, not the church. Jesus did not die for the church. He died for the world. You go, He died for me. That's because you're the world. We are the world, I understand. And what I'm getting at is this, is that love, 1 Corinthians 13:4 says that love suffers long. Jesus said this, greater love has no man than this, than he laid down his life for his friends. How many of you know a lot of people are laid down their friends for their life? But Jesus said that the greater love has no one this, that he laid down his life for his friends. See, when I have covenant, I can have camaraderie, but my camaraderie is not based on what I'm against. It's who I'm laying down my life for. 2 Timothy 2, this is just one of many. Paul writes to Timothy and he writes this, suffer hardship with me as a good soldier of Christ Jesus. You can't take suffering out of the gospel. Whew, that didn't go very well. Listen, you can't take suffering out of the gospel because suffering is part of covenant. I'm not talking about sickness. I'm talking about the fact that I've come to lay down my life for you. I've come to die. Marriage. How many of you are married? How many of you men are married? Wives, submit. Husband, die. I don't know if you know this, all that beautiful music and that beautiful bride, it was all to convince you that you were on a death march to a life camp. I don't know why we shout submit. But, if the doctor said, you got this submit thing, but you're going to die. Would you even remember submit? Especially when it begins with, submit yourselves to one another. Wives, submit yourselves to your husbands. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. He died for her. It's kind of a weird deal, I've heard people counsel like this. Well, honey, you're getting married to this man. That means you're going to, give up everything to follow him. I'm like, where did you get that from that? I thought he was the guy who died to give up everything to be with her. I thought it was his job to help her dreams come true. Oh, I guess not. I must have read it wrong. I thought it was about love. I've shared it many times. I met I've been with Kathy since she was 12. 12! It's more than 15 years. But we've been through a lot together. We've visited hell more than once. I mean, they know us there. Just a visitor badge, but they know us there. People that don't believe in hell, I can tell you, I've been there. There are permanent people in there too. But I'll just tell you one story. It typifies our marriage. I'll be done with this and I'll pray for you. We had a service station, a Union 76 station, and it was tough times. And Fridays were payday, and Thursdays were hell day. I very seldom slept on a Thursday for 9 years because we very seldom had money for payroll, and I would stay up at night. I mean, it wasn't like I wanted to. I'd just stay up at night and I'd pace the floor at night, and I'd just cry out to God, God, you put me in this business. I need money. I don't need blessing. I need money. I need it by tomorrow morning so I can pay my payroll. And things were just really tough, and we went through these seasons several times, but this one I remember in particular, it was winter time, and there was snow on the ground, and it was freezing cold, and we were super broke, and our house was in foreclosure. We were 2 or 3 payments behind on our house, and we didn't have food. We did have food because our friends would bring us food. I don't know if they just saw how skinny our children were. We didn't beg, but somehow we ended up with food. And things were just really, really tight. And I was working 12-hour days trying to make up the difference and just struggling, just really, really struggling. It just went on for months and months, deep into the winter. And I just remember feeling like I was failing. I couldn't make anything go right. And if it was the first time, it'd be different. But we had been through this so many times. And one day I went home early, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, which was just totally not my custom when we were in hard times. I go home. It's winter time, so it's already dark, but it's only about 5 o'clock. And I drive up my driveway, snow on the ground, foot or two of snow on the ground, and my house is completely dark. There's no light. And I'm like, wow, I wonder where Kathy and the kids are. We had 3 little kids at the time. And I get up to the driveway, this long kind of steep driveway. I get up the driveway and I see Kathy's car parked there, and I'm like, man, it's totally pitch dark. Where is everybody? And I kind of panic, I'm not used to usually I don't get home till 7 and there's all this activity. So I come up the front porch and I open the front door, and in my front room, the front room is lit with candles. And there's 3 tents made out of blankets, and my 3 little children are in the tents. And I walk in the front door. Of course, Kathy doesn't even know I'm home. I open the front door, and they look out the tent, their little tent doors, and they go, "Hi, Daddy." And we have wood heat, so it's warm in there. And I said, "Hi, what are you guys doing?" They said, "We're playing camping. We're playing camping." I said, "We're playing camping." And then Kathy hears me, and she comes out of the kitchen. She's like, "Hi, honey, what are you doing home so early?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, the lights aren't on." And I'm like, what's going on? And while she's talking to me, she walks out in front on the deck and turns back on the main breaker. I said, why is there no electricity? She said, "Oh, I've been turning it off for months. I just turn it off during the day, and I just turn it on a half hour before you get home." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, I just want to do whatever I can to help." And she said, "I just make it a game for the children." It just typifies what happens when you live with the angel. I could tell you. I could tell you 500 stories like that, literally. Never a complaint. Never, "You got us in this place. You wanted to be in business. You haven't paid us. What are you going to do to take care of us? How come we have no food?" Never, never. I mean, never. Not one time. Now, I've been married to this woman 38 years. Not one time have I ever heard out of her mouth ever a complaint. Always, she's in the background, making it work, doing what she can, laying down her life, and teaching my children to do the same thing. I'm sorry my children were in those tents, but I'm telling you, my kids know what it is to lay down their life, to make sure it works, and to do everything they can to make it work. Because when they get married, they know that their job is to die. I've come not just with passion, because passion won't keep you alive on hell days. Only sacrifice will. And I'll tell you, the truth is you'll have both. We have good days, and we have bad days. And sometimes you only know that you had good days when you finally have a bad one. And I don't want bad days. I don't want tough days. But I can tell you that sometimes it takes those days to figure out if you have camaraderie or covenant. It takes those days to figure out if you're just a comrade or if you're in covenant. And I think it's a season to renew covenant.